welcome to Coffee with the Commissioners. And I have two wonderful guests with me today. And I'm going to go ahead and just ask you to introduce yourself.
All right. I am Reverend Daria Dillard Stone, the servant, and I have been a part of the Dayton community for a long, long time. And I'm here to make sure that you all go see a sneak preview of Beyond the System. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Okay.
And I am Shondell Atkinson. I am the founder of the Mustard Seed Foundation, and I am the co-producer of the Beyond the System. Yes.
Thank you, ladies, for being here with me today.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
You two have long been leaders in our community and well-respected leaders in our community.
Thank you.
And Shondell has a wonderful story to tell. Parts of it aren't so wonderful. They're
Exactly.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we need to talk about. And I think it's something that as more and more children are in the system, that we need to understand what are the things that we could do? What can we do better?
And what are some things we should have never done?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, one of the things right now that to me is rather heartbreaking are the group homes.
Yeah.
Especially in Dayton.
Yes.
There are more group homes in the city of Dayton than there are in any other county in Ohio.
Yeah.
And most of those kids aren't from Dayton,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They're being sent here from other counties.
Right.
The state regulates those.
Yes.
And so, as a matter of fact, yesterday at our commission meeting, we approved about 12 group homes. Most of them are out of the state.
Wow.
And so I think the tragedy around all that is that we have to send children, especially those that are, I'm going to use this word, and they're not all difficult, but the most difficult issues, we have to send specialized places.
Where they can get the most help, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what you got to
I
do.
know.
We're not throwing them away,
No,
but we
no.
want them to know they can't thrive where we can't be able to give them what they need.
Oh, you're
and
so
then they
right.
go get it somewhere else.
You're right.
Yeah.
So, you know, we wish that, we wish that it never had to happen,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
someone never had to go into the system.
Right.
But I also, and we say this all the time, we need more foster parents, good foster
I
parents,
was going to
Yes.
good
Good
foster,
foster
parents,
parents.
because we know, as I'm sure our documentary will show, that that doesn't always happen,
Right.
right?
I worked at Children's Services, Commissioner Lieberman, for 11 years.
Yeah.
So I'm like on the inside looking out. And then when I got out and realized how my own sister was treated, even though they wouldn't let me take her because I was divorced. So they made her go through China Acres, is what it was called then. And how she just had some traumatic experiences at age 14 getting pregnant. And they wouldn't let me take her because I just got divorced. And back then, that was in the 70s, they just didn't let a divorced family member take the child. But they could have given me the help that we're going to give the foster home and, you know, to this day, I believe she blames me for letting her be thrown away. And she has no idea how I fought. With two
Well, thank
kids
God
of my
those
own.
rules have changed.
Yes,
But
yeah.
you're right. So many people had to suffer
So when
through
people
that.
hear me and Shondell talk,
Yeah.
we're talking about what we know. It's not in theory. It's not what we read. Like I said, I worked there 11 years, and then I saw what happened when they emancipated them or told them that okay, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. But I'm like, but they don't have none. Yesterday they had bag and $5. Some back then they gave them bus tokens, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's all you giving them. But that's all they were obligated to give. Where's your heart, though? Obligation is one thing, but
Exactly.
where's your heart?
Exactly. And we have come a ways.
A long ways, but I want
it's
people
not
to know
perfect.
that it's a process.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, now once you turn 18, there are other things that can happen that it's gotten a little bit better,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yes,
so
let's
we
give
know
credit
that
where
the
credit's
older
due.
youth sometimes get the help they need, but not always.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's something I think we have to continue to work on and bring awareness to it. And I think, Shondell, that's what you've done. So tell us a little bit about, we're going to see a clip in a little bit, but tell us about the
Beyond the system.
Yes, beyond the system.
So Beyond the System, a journey through foster care. When I first started to look at how do I share my story, not just from me being in foster care, And me being in 21 foster homes and me being separated and becoming a teenage mom, coming out of care, I was looking at it from the perspective of now I have a business and I'm watching a lot of these things repeat themselves. Histories repeating themselves. Is, the separation from, not even being able to have the opportunity to parent. So I wanted to look at the story from a broad perspective, and I wanted to look at it systemically, not just personally talking about Shondel's story, but systemically, what can we do to help each system understand the challenges of dealing with a child that's transit. So transient youth have a lot of things against them, from education. So we wanted to have teachers in this film. So we have teachers that's talking about what it is like trying to educate a kid that is transit, that may be 2 to 3 years behind based on just life circumstances.
Exactly.
So now we're seeing these mental health behaviors play out in the classroom, and all of these things where before it used to maybe be 1 or 2 kids in a classroom that was going through mental health challenges or behavioral issues. Now you have over half of your classroom that is now
staying at a shelter.
Staying at a shelter, hopping from one sofa to the next. So then we also wanted to look at it from a therapeutic perspective. What are these traumas that are happening in their younger ages and younger years causing now when we see teenagers in the schools that are violent and fighting, and some of the things that they're overly medicated. They're used to being in lockup facilities, at 8 years old, 9 years old. So now these kids aren't even the type of typical 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds that you can see going into a foster home because of those behaviors. So, we have a therapist in the film. We have people like Mama Daria in the film who's worked on both sides of the spectrum. Other youth that were in foster care are in this film. Caseworkers even, and people that were foster parents. So we wanted to build a broad perspective around what it looks like, not just targeting like, okay, it's your fault or what you can do. It's what we can do to be able to help manage in these circumstances.
It takes us all.
So yeah,
that's right.
And we want to make sure everybody knows that they can help.
Yes.
It's not, you don't have to be one thing or another, but you've got to help, because the kids, they need us. It's not a me and I, it's a us and we thing.
Yes.
And too many times people look on and go, oh, that's so bad, that's so terrible. Oh, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What can you do to help? If nothing else, if you can't be a foster parent, a good one, then maybe how we can get those good foster parents and help them.
Well, and one of the big pushes has been on kinship care.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
Had you been able to do that for your sister, it would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, that started years later, and it really did
and
work.
I did kinship care with my niece. And that's how I was able to get custody of her.
That program was excellent.
Yeah, and
is it
works.
still in existence?
It is.
Okay, Reclaiming Futures, is that still in existence? Okay, so there were some programs that worked.
I don't think Reclaiming Futures is.
Okay.
I don't know 100%.
All right.
It's not a county program.
Okay.
But the kinship care, in fact, over by Children's Hospital, they're building homes for kinship care.
Wow.
Debbie Feldman has been pushing that from Children's, and so there will be homes for kinship families.
That's beautiful.
That's
Isn't
what I'm
that
talking
That is
about.
beautiful.
I
That
know,
is beautiful.
I know.
That's
So-
progress.
And those are the things that we need, because those are so imperative. Like, you can give a family a kid, but the challenge, and even me being someone who had custody of a child that was coming in through children's services through my niece, there was no resources for me. It was just like, here go your little niece, and then go about your business. And it was like, you take care of her, and it's like, okay, well, what resources do I have? So yeah,
we need each other to survive more than we really want to admit.
Well, absolutely, and we have to give these young boys and girls and older teenagers a chance.
Exactly.
Right.
Because even though what happened to my sister was at 14, she's now in her 60s, and it still affects her.
it's still.
And in the documentary, wait till you see the stories where people, they're grown now, but they have never got over
the trauma. The trauma.
Yes.
And the trauma-informed care that we all learn about.
Yes.
You both, studied it. It's almost like we all need to have a course in that. Everyone that's out in the community doing things, because sometimes you blame a child or a young person, but it's not all their fault.
No, it's not.
And we can't always blame the parents, because we know sometimes
they did the best they could, babe.
Oftentimes they
Yeah,
have.
they
They've done
have.
the best they could.
They have.
And we can't blame the schools.
They're doing the best they can.
Government.
No, we can't.
But it's, as you said, it takes all of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Right.
And that's definitely been something that's been on my heart for
And we
many
thank you for
years.
that. Not just your
many
heart, but you've been
years.
walking it with your feet
Well,
too.
thank you,
Yeah.
but and we have to do better. We have to do better, because when I look at our system, it just like systems all across the country. And I see this because I do, I'm the vice chair of Human Services for the National Association of Counties.
Okay.
And so this is always one of our topics on our monthly call is foster youth, because it is a nationwide crisis problem.
Yes.
And especially when opioids got so bad there for a while, we had so many children that had lost both of their parents, right?
To
To
that
overdoses.
drug. Yeah.
That number's gone way down, but we still have so many kids. We have over 700 kids right now in the system. And that's just in the foster system. That's not the kids that our caseworkers are working with. So, we've got a lot.
We got a lot of work.
We have a lot of work to do. I'm going to ask you, Daria, if there's anything else you want to add, because we know you have to leave right after we play the clip. But is there anything else you want to add?
Only that the people that listen to our podcast today, that they don't just listen with their ears. A lot of times you can get a doctor's report and you listen to what that report says. It says you got this and you can't do this unless you do that. I need for you to hear what your heart is saying. And from now on, you don't just listen to stuff, you hear what needs to be done by you. When people can find that one place that they can do something, and it's like, well, it's their problem. No. But what can you do to help us with our problem? Look at this podcast in that way. Look at this documentary, this snippet you're going to hear later on, in a way of what can I do to be a part of the solution? Because when you do nothing, you're part of the problem.
Yes.
Whether you want to be or not, hear me well, people of God, you're part of the problem.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yes, ma'am. I should say yes, Pastor.
You good, baby.
Daria
You
is a
good.
reverend.
Yes.
Well, in our hearts, she always has been, but now
I
she's
know, right?
officially.
Listen,
She's
yes.
been ordained.
Thank God for Reverend Chad White Sr.,
yes,
my pastor.
Okay, I'm going
me.
to give you 3 minutes to plug something else you do. Why don't you tell
I
us
am
about
the
it?
founding CEO of Sharing Ministries, and Sharing Ministries is celebrating 14 years. A ministry birthed out of grief when my husband died in 2007. Just September the 28th, I was able to honor 33 of my star ambassadors, as I've called them, because Shondell was one of them, because they have given time, treasure, and love and talent for not just 2 years when the program started, but from the time I started, and they believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. So I am the epitome of what it looks like when you never give up.
Yeah.
That's why I ask people, don't give up on me. I'm not going to give up on you, but we can't give up on each other either. So I'm always looking for ways to serve my community, and I'm always looking for ways that I can be a more shining star, but not like the world-defined star, like the word-defined star. We're smart, we're talented, we're awesome, and we're respected. Every student we're talking about, every parent we're talking about right now, those are still stars. They're star people. They're smart, they're talented, they're awesome, they're respected. It's just nobody's told them.
Yeah.
Nobody's reinforced it. I've been through hell, but I was smart, talented, awesome, respected, and I got through the hell. See, it's coming through it and then telling the story. See, we shine when we're stars, and a lot of people don't want to tell their star story.
Yeah.
We all got one.
Yeah.
It took something for us to get here.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we all have one. That's why we can shine, and we don't allow anybody to turn out our light.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me that plug,
Yeah.
because I am proud to celebrate
I know,
14
we're proud
years.
of you.
Yes.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being with us. And now we're going to hear a little bit about the upcoming, and it's coming out in spring of 25.
Yes.
The full story, the full,
Yeah.
what are we going to call it? A
film.
documentary or a
Yeah,
film?
It's gonna be a film.
It's gonna be a
documentary,
film.
but it's a film.
Yeah.
So this is just one of the first. So it is called Beyond the System: A Journey Through Foster Care. Welcome to Beyond the System: A Journey Through Foster Care. My name is Shondell Nicole Atkinson, and the foster care system is a world I know all too well. The system,
That's what they called it, a maze of social workers, court dates, and unfamiliar faces. I was born into the foster care system in 1977, one of 5 children. Then at 17, I became a single mom myself. This is my story, a story of resilience, overcoming the abuse, the neglect, and separation from family. Join me as we go beyond the statistics and headlines, as we highlight the trials, the tribulations, and the triumphs of those impacted by the foster care system.
See the whole thing. So tell us a little bit more. Tell us whatever you want to share. Please do.
The first, and it was leading into that conversation about my first separation. My mother fell victim to the crack era. I was born in 77, so right in like the 80s, early 80s, and my mother fell victim to crack addiction. My mother is 70 today, and she still battles with crack addiction. And it's hard when people don't understand, when people use words like just get over it, because they don't understand that every single thing, every foundation that we were born to believe in, family and love and nurture, all those things that are supposed to happen at that fundamental age, don't happen. And then you're removed from your parent and put into a situation where things can be really bad for you, and you don't really have an advocate, and you're almost like this invisible kid, just, move from one place to the next. And all I remember a lot about my childhood is bags. I don't ever really remember there being a time where I felt like anything I had was valuable, including myself. So, you're left to pick up the pieces, and you still have no family. Even when you get older, there's still no family. I still don't, it's 5 of us. I still don't see my siblings really. I have brothers who are addicted to drugs. I have a little sister. They've been in and out of prison. My mother's been in and out of prison for drug abuse. And, there's no picking up the pieces to that really. There's no recovery from that, especially when you did not know anything about therapy at a young age. I can't ever remember seeing a therapist in my younger years. So now me being in therapy is to try to go back and, deal with all the trauma, and to have all these questions in my head, and how to deal with my mother when there is no sobriety. You know what I mean? And, my mother still ODs. My brothers OD all the time. And so, some days I'm so exhausted. I'm just like, I want to take off this superhero cape. But then there are generations that came after me that need me. You know what I mean? And so, I just want people to realize that, again, when they're looking at this film, is that this isn't past tense. These are things today that we are still dealing with. And so, yeah.
Well, I've known you for quite a while. And I can say this, as traumatic as your growing up years were, and even as you share with us, the heartbreak of not having close family. You, and you may be very rare, but you've overcome some things, Shondell, and you are a leader. And every time I see you in a different role, I'm just so impressed. And I think you have, through this story, you can share so much. And I'm thankful that you did it, because I know you've been talking about it for a long time. And it wasn't cheap. So why don't you share how, if somebody would like to help fund this, why don't you go ahead and share that?
So they could actually find my GoFundMe information for Beyond the System on my website, which is thewellnesslady.com. And every dollar helps. And because, again, I just wanted people to be able to have a platform to just talk. I think that's one of the things that we're missing so much of today is just communication. But, you know, sometimes I feel like with us doing it as a group, it helped us all as a village to come together and talk about it, because the conversation is very tough. So that was one of the things that I had to even overcome, like family members being mad at me about telling the story, or foster parents, you know, being upset about me telling the story. But it was like, this is my story, and I didn't choose it for myself, but I can choose the way I heal from it.
Yes.
And that's really what I want to give others, even kids that are in foster care today. I just want them to know that this isn't your final destination.
Right, exactly.
So don't give up. Don't quit. I understand that you're having it tough, and there may seem like there's nobody listening, but we hear you, and we overcame a lot, so that way you can overcome too.
You're giving them hope.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
giving so many hope. And, you know, beyond the system, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love that title.
Thank you.
Nobody likes the system.
Yeah.
I wish no one was in the system, right?
Yeah.
But we also know that for the safety of so many that are in the system,
Yeah.
there's no real choices right now. But you definitely have an incredible story to tell, and I'm glad that it's getting out there. But I also want you to talk a little bit about the wellness work that you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, in 2015, I was diagnosed with lupus. I had been working at the hospital for many years. I loved working on the floor. However, I had started to get very ill. I kept catching what they call ventilator pneumonia. And my doctor kept telling me, like, Shondell, there's something wrong. I would go from being a patient in the bed to getting out the hospital and going on the floor and working. It was a rotating door.
I remember those days when you were always in the hospital.
It was bad. And I didn't want to accept that it was something autoimmune, but I couldn't continue to fight it because it was affecting my lungs and respiratory system in such a way. The last time I was intubated, my doctor was like, Shondell, you can't do this anymore. And so I started seeing a rheumatologist, got diagnosed with lupus. However, the medication that I was on had started shutting down my kidneys. So then I was going into active kidney failure, and I was losing my eyesight at the same time. And I remember the doctor telling me that when they first put me on the medication when I was in the hospital, my first admission, they came in and said, well, we're going to put you on this medication. However, it could cause blindness, and it could cause your kidneys to shut down. And again, but when I'm asking, is there any other options other than this medication? No. And again, I fought for a while with taking it because I did not want those things to happen, but I kept noticing my admissions were getting longer, my stays were longer, my condition was getting worsened. So I started taking the medication. Instantly, I started to go into kidney failure. So now they're talking about maybe I'll be needing a kidney transplant if I continue down this path. Now I'm having to see a eye doctor because now my vision is becoming blurred. And the way of me being able to run my business was just changing drastically. I'm managing meetings with my staff from a hospital bed most of the time. So I started to really look at the alternatives, like how do I get myself off of this medicine but still have a quality of life? And a friend of mine's out in California started talking to me about medical marijuana and the services and how it's really helping people. And so I started going out to California, getting treatments out there with a holistic physician. And I started to notice this transition. It was just, I was getting better. I was feeling better. I was able to start having more energy. I wasn't finding myself in the hospital bed every couple of weeks. So I started to seek out, okay, well, you know, I can go to California for this, but now they're having conversations about it's coming to Ohio. And now I went from not just wanting to be a patient who's seen that this herbal medicine works for myself, but how do I introduce this to other people who are suffering with other ailments also, autoimmune included. And so I started looking at it from a business perspective. And I just thank God I do, Debbie, because it was effortless for me. And people talked about how challenging it was to get licensed in Ohio and all of these things that they had went through. And it was just like, all it took was just, you know, the door just opened for me. I had the right doctor that came in and decided that he wanted to work for me. And again, that was unheard of. So all of these things just fell into place, and I was able to open up Serendipity Community Care in the Oregon District in 2019. And, you know, I have hundreds of customers that come through every week. That's just, you know, we're all finding this connectivity with this medicine. Yeah. And I'm seeing people who have, you know, cancer diagnosis, and babies, I'm able to treat babies with this medicine, you know, that don't have an appetite or that's been losing weight, and the parents are trusting this medicine to help turn things around. And so
and I think it's important to note that you work with a doctor.
I do.
You know, you're not just saying, well, you should have this and this.
Yes.
But you're working with the doctor.
Yeah. So they come in, they get an assessment with my doctor, and the doctor sat down and we really go through, okay, what are your symptoms? What are you wanting to address? Do you need energy or do you need to sleep? Like, what are your ailments that you're working with? And we do our very best to make sure that they're not being ran around like on a hamster wheel, because that's the way I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. And so, yeah, we are grateful to be able to see them come in, and 1 week they're vomiting and having all these issues, and the next week they're coming in and they're like, I haven't been vomiting at all. So we understand that the medicine works, and I'm just blessed to be able to be in this industry. Yeah.
You have quite a following. What is your website?
Yeah. So it is thewellnesslady.com. They can also find everything on there for Serendipity Community Care. If they want to make an appointment, if they want to have a consultation with the doctor, we have a medication consultation, which is free. So someone could come in and just sit down and tell us what their ailments are, and we'll talk you through what your medication regimen should look like.
So now that marijuana is legal in Ohio, there are reasons that people should still see a doctor and go through, because they find out what is it they need. Because if they go into a dispensary just to buy marijuana, they don't know what they need. So that's why it's still important. Right? Yeah, I figured you could tell that and agree.
And that's the thing, when people are like, well, it's recreational now, I don't really necessarily need to go in and see a doctor. But for me, I recommend people do, even if it's just for the free consultation. Because a lot of times what people don't realize is if you have anxiety and you go into the dispensary and you buy an item and it's sativa, it's going to exacerbate your anxiety. And people call it paranoia because that's the way you feel. But what's happening is your body is telling you that you've triggered your anxiety to be exacerbated worse. And it'll take you into a manic state. And so we don't want people to have these trials with this medication, because sometimes once they have that one trial, they may not try it again. So yeah, that's what the consultation is very important.
And that's great. It really
I have a lot of fun with my patients too.
You know, you are a true entrepreneur. I will say that about you. You're definitely one of those small business people that makes our economy thrive, actually.
Well, thank you.
But I thank you. Is there anything more you want to say about the film?
I just want people to come out. I do. So we're having our first showing March the 16th, 2025 at the Neon.
Yay, that's so awesome.
I am so excited about that because this is a dream come true.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a dream come true. It's like I had so many doubts. You know, I'm like, I've never done film. I've never done media. I've never done any of these things. And again, it's just one of those situations where all the pieces are just falling into place. So we are showing this in partnership with the Neon. And so I just want people to come out, whether you are in foster care, whether you know what I mean, like if you're a teacher, we want you to come out so that way you can look at the faces of the kids in your classroom in foster care and not prejudge them. You know, I had teachers tell me I wasn't going to be anything. And it was like, well, I'm living in a shelter right now, so I just barely made it to school. Like, I didn't eat, or I haven't seen my mother in a week. Me and my little sister are living in this abandoned house, and nobody knows it. So, you know, sometimes people that you're dealing with don't know everything that you're going through. And so I just want them to look at this and be able to say, well, how can I have more compassion and more empathy for what we're seeing in the community today? How can I work with these families to really help? That's
and
all
volunteer.
we want. And volunteer.
And if you're able to be a good foster parent, we need you. Our children need you.
And don't let people deter you from being a foster parent, because it's not just like the one young lady said in the film. That's why I wanted foster parents to give it from their perspective, is that, you know, people do expect for the teenagers to be these bad kids, but sometimes they're not. They're just in a situation that they had no power
and they just
over.
Want love.
They just want love and nurture.
And hope.
And they just need hope. So
and clean. You know, sometimes when I see the stories of a young child, that they just want a bed. They want you know, clean clothes.
And that's why I loved working with like agencies like Secret Smiles of Dayton, because they provided all of our beds.
I know.
And it was just those type of things that we ask for in our small organizations and our ministries, is that anything that you can do, just make it available, because sometimes just those small things are the things that help to offset our budget or to help offset some of our work.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
thank
sharing
you,
your
Deb.
story. We can't wait to see the full film.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you,
I'm really
Deb.
proud of the work that you do. I think of all the different things that you've done. I remember when you had a summer camp for kids.
Yes.
And, you know, your love of our youth shows through. And I really appreciate that, because we need everybody to do their part.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're not going to save every kid. We know that, right?
Yes.
But the steps that we can take just by being present.
Yeah.
Just
And
by
sometimes it is. It's like, if it was one thing that you wanted for yourself and you couldn't get it, what would it be? And then give it to someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's not about material things always.
No.
You know, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
And we have so many great organizations in our community. I think of Beth Mann and the work that Flock
Yes.
does, and others.
Yes.
And you all have just amazing hearts and love, and I just appreciate you so much. And thanks for coming on.
I appreciate
Coffee
you
with the
having-
Commissioner.
Coffee with the
Even though
Commissioner
we
is
didn't
one an
drink
honor.
any coffee right now. I know. I was thinking, oh, wait a minute. I didn't bring any
We didn't
coffee
bring any
in.
coffee. Listen,
Where's
well,
the
I am
coffee?
grateful that you had us on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was so nice to have Daria on.
Yes.
She's a lot of people's mama.
She is community mother. She
Yes,
is.
she
And that's
is.
the reason why it was so key also for her to be in this film with me.
Yeah.
It's because she has been a mother to me on so many occasions that I needed her. And it's helped me get through so many challenging situations. And she's taught me to love my mother from a different perspective even.
See, that's nice.
So,
that's
yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good that you can say
yeah.
that you do love your mother.
Yes. She is so dear to my heart. My mother is. And so, you know, I pray for her every day. And I know that she's in this film. My mother's in this film.
Good.
So I
Good.
thank God for that too.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
I thank God for you.
Thank you,
And the work that
Debbie.
you do. And keep it up.
I will.
Keep it up. I know you will. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Commissioner
much.
Lieberman. Thank you.